Happy Hanukkah and Advent greetings. It's been a little while since I've been in the pulpit with you, and I'm glad to be here celebrating the start of the winter holidays. They form what in the 65th Psalm of the Hebrew Bible is called the crown of the year, a peak time when the ordinary is ruptured and our sense of the sacred is heightened. The crown of the year. At the start of this sermon and on this first Sunday of the final month of 2021, it's worth turning momentarily to the concluding verse of Psalm 65. You crown the year with your bounty. Fatness is distilled with your paths. The pasture lands distill it. The hills are girded with joy. The meadows are clothed with flocks. The valleys mantled with grain. They raise a shout, they break into song. Historically, the psalm is thought to have been recited upon entering the temple in Jerusalem. God was believed to have resided there. The words are supposed to evoke the joy of being in her presence. The closing verses of the psalm speak nothing of the temple, nor do they imply that the divine is found within the bounds of the sanctuary. Instead, they suggest that the very earth itself is a sacred gift. Infused with the divine, terrestrial matter is so sanctified that the meadows and the mounds themselves are song. Do not just look for God, if you want to use that word, or the highest form of consciousness or wisdom in the halls of the holy. Seek everywhere, and you may find the world filled with unexpected beauty and unexpected gifts. Especially now at the crown of the year, this time we set aside, secular or religious, for celebrating the earth's turning, the passing of one dancing rotation around the day star and the advent of another. My sermon this morning is titled Unexpected Gifts. It is the first in this month's series on reimagining possibilities. My message is simple. The world is filled with unexpected gifts. When we become aware of them, we can reimagine what is possible. I offer this message because I believe, with the Protestant preacher Barbara Brown Taylor, the church's central task is an imaginative one. Our effort together is devoted to the prospect of seeing, experiencing, savoring the world in such a way that we are ever more open to the reality of beauty and joy that surrounds us. The Jewish and Christian holidays that come at the crown of the year both contain stories that can expand our sense of the possible. In both Hanukkah and Christmas, we encounter miracles and unexpected gifts. Perhaps the statement is redundant. For what is a miracle but a gift so unexpected that the recipient cannot even imagine its coming? Most of you, I suspect, know stories of the season's unexpected gifts. Hanukkah is celebrated because, according to the Talmud, a miracle occurred. In truth, it was a fairly minor miracle. Perhaps you know the story. In ancient Palestine, the land of Judah came under the power of Antiochus Epiphanes. He was a harsh and brutal king. He outlawed Jewish religious practice and defiled the temple, turning it into a shrine to the Greek gods. Under the leadership of Judah Maccabee and his family, Antiochus and his supporters were driven from the temple and from the land. And the temple was reclaimed as the seat of the divine. When the high priest re-entered the temple, he discovered that there was only enough uncontaminated oil to burn for one night. Yet, despite this limitation, the priest was able to keep the lamp aflame for 8 days and nights until more holy oil was found. 8 days of light instead of one. A small miracle, but an unexpected gift nonetheless. The Christmas story is likewise filled with unexpected gifts. The core Christian claim, of course, is that the holiday itself is about the unexpected arrival of the Messiah, the anointed one who is supposed to bring about the kingdom of God on earth. But the arrival of the Christ child is not the only unexpected gift found in the Holy Days story, for this story contains many. Some of my favorites are the gifts of the Magi. You might remember them. In the Gospel of Matthew, 3 wise men go in search of the child they believe will be the Messiah. They read the sky and, following a rising star, discover the place where Mary is nursing her newborn. Imagine the astonishment of all. 3 sages, blessed with divine insight, study the celestial sphere and uncover what no one had expected, that one has been born who God intends to use to bring about the reign of peace on earth. Mary in a manger, holding a sleeping babe, perhaps drowsy with sleep herself, looks up and finds herself facing 3 bearers of wisdom. They bow to her child, so humble there's no place for him in the inn, and present him with treasure chests, the unfathomable riches of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. It's a fantastic story. But like all stories of unexpected gifts or miracles, it invites us to reimagine the possible. Is it possible that a jar of oil was used for 8 nights when it was only supposed to be enough oil for 1? Maybe the miracle was a human one. It could be that the high priest so carefully tended the wick, kept its trim so short, that it burned at the barest flicker, and the light, casting but the dimmest light, simply consumed the same amount of oil in 8 days that it would normally burn through in 1. In the Hanukkah story, the high priest did not anticipate finding any jars of oil that had not been defiled. So it might be that the discovery of a single one expanded his own sense of possible and led him to carefully steward the small amount that there was so it could burn for long enough. Is it possible that 3 kings found a child in a manger and showered him with great wealth? Likely not, but the story should remind us that in the words of our own Unitarian Universalist tradition, each night a child is born is a holy night, a time for singing, a time for wondering, a time for worshiping. Every new life that comes into the world brings with it the possibilities of unexpected gifts. Who knows how the courses of our lives shall run? Who knows how they will unfold when we are born? What blessings we will bring into the world? In one of her poems, the poet Diane de Prima tells us, "The war that matters is the war against imagination. All other wars are subsumed in it." And it is one of the purposes of our communion, especially now, as we reach the crown of the year, to remind each other that the world is infused with all sorts of beauty, all sorts of possibilities, that we are born with those possibilities and that we can live into them in unexpected and even unimaginable ways. There are so many invitations to imagining. Indeed, to be human and to be religious is to imagine. We come together in part to help each other remember that, and to again quote Barbara Brown Taylor, remember that the world is packed with endless possibilities. In the past, I've spoken with you about what I call the resurrection of the living. This is the teaching found in Gnostic Christianity, the words of the Buddha, and in the sages of many traditions that suggest that the purpose of religion is to help us wake up to the world as it is, to recall that it is a realm packed with endless possibilities. It is a longed for answer to the question, attested to in a hymn often sung by congregation Shema Kolino, the Jewish community that meets here, that runs, "Am I awake? Am I aware? Am I awake?" In pursuing our theme of reimagining possibilities, I want to invite us to consider that when we wake up to the world, we will find ourselves surrounded by the unexpected gift of beauty. For some, perhaps that is not as great a miracle as the ones attested to in either Hanukkah or the Christmas stories. But it is a miracle that is available to us regardless, and one which I hope you will open yourselves to as we find ourselves here at the crown of the year. Let me offer 3 examples from ordinary life. 3 times I've found unexpected gifts. Perhaps they'll help you be more aware of the beauty in your own lives. Have you ever watched a really good short order cook? You know, the sort of person who works frying eggs, assembling omelets, pouring pancakes, and sizzling sausages. Some years ago, I found myself in an ancient, dusty, perhaps even grimy diner for an early morning breakfast. It was tiny. There were maybe 3 tables and a short counter that overlooked directly the kitchen with the grill. There I sat, and there I made my order. Something fried with something melted, with something sautéed, and a glass of orange juice and a bit of too watery tea. The kitchen was on just the other side of the counter, and I watched the cook make my breakfast. Actually, I watched her dance as she made several people's breakfasts all at the same time. She scrambled your eggs. She reached around and gave you your coffee. She flipped over your pancake. And then somehow, in the same motion, she turned your omelet. Quick pause, the spatula set down, and a rapid bit of knife work. Chop, chop, chop goes the onion, the bell pepper, a mad splash of oil, and it's back to the grill. Here's your plate. Here's your plate. Put a little cheese on those potatoes, and here's mine. There was no motion wasted. Everything happened exactly as it was supposed to happen, like the improvised dance of a modern master. I've seen jazz pianists, turntablists, and drummers proceed with the same variety of controlled and premeditated yet spontaneous action. This movement in response to that, this keystroke following that saxophone riff, this record scratch cascading after that accidental bump or sudden flight of imagination. The short order cook is not supposed to be offering an artistic performance. I was in the diner for hash browns, not high art. And yet her movements were as enthralling as capoeira, mambo, tango, an unexpected gift of beauty. The philosopher Simone Weil observed in her notebooks, "The beautiful is the experiential proof that the incarnation is possible." And there we were in the beauty of the short order cook's movements, the seemingly perfect chop, sizzle, fry, turn, flip, twist, something present of the divine, something of the highest within each of us that was made manifest. A second unexpected gift, the found object. Is the phrase familiar? Something found by the artist and declared to be art. This piece of trash, this rusting hulk of oxidized metal, crumpled bit of paper, broken spoon, fragment of ceramic, a thing of beauty. The found object, argues the art critic Margaret Iverson, calls attention to itself by creating a hole in the fabric of normal perception. Creating a hole in the fabric of normal perception. The found object, in other phrasing, awakens us from our slumber to the impossible, ever-present beauty of the world. It interrupts routine and causes us to look at the world and ourselves differently. Do you know of what I speak? If you do not know now, I suspect you did when you were a child. What child has not found magic in a wooden stick or what appears to be an ordinary rock? If you've ever had children, surely you have had the experience of going through their pockets to do the wash. A snatch of string, a smooth stone, a piece of bark, mashed bits of wax, precious objects. I have long enjoyed the beauty of crumbling asphalt and concrete myself. With a splash of water or a slick of oil, they turn prismatic and unleash thin bands of red, yellow, blue, purple, all the colors across the eye. Examined closely, they reveal a multitude of tiny stones, each rock with its own story, its own structure, texture, and shade. An object of beauty found in a crumbling bit of concrete, an unexpected gift that can awaken us to the world around us. Lucille Clifton, meanwhile, writes of the joy to be discovered among uncontrolled vegetation. Here we are, running with the weeds, colors exaggerated. Dandelion, wild violet, henbit, purslane, wood sorrel, not an unwelcome guest, but an invitation to discover the name of the place is love. Along with the found object, I invoke the found sound. It is the world's music that reminds us that our own drum beats, piano chords, sung notes are accompanied by the accidental sounds or choruses of birds, wind-swept trees, or moving water, each containing their own unexpected gifts of beauty. Contemporary electronic artists, especially ambient ones who emphasize atmosphere over melody or rhythm, invite us to listen to the world in new ways and wake up to the loveliness of quotidian sound. I encountered one example of this work in an experimental musician I used to know in San Francisco named Jones Victoria. They created an album entitled Up Train, Down Train, for which they took a tape recorder and recorded the sounds they encountered while riding up and down the train on the San Francisco Peninsula. Over this, they layered scatterings of other favorite sounds, bits recorded in public, portions of Brian Eno, snatches of television shows, piano notes, guitar chords, lyrics from iconic punk bands like Crass, Do They Owe Us a Living? Of course they do, and French torch ballads. The result was truly mesmerizing, not just to listen to, but in the way the music prompted me to look for unexpected gifts in ordinary sound. The rhythm of the train wheels, a lullaby. Shoes slapping on the sidewalks, the beat of a drum. The found sound, the found object, the short order cook's dance, the gifts of the Magi, 8 days of light. What unexpected gifts are there for you to discover? What beauty is found when you awaken yourself to the world? How does that beauty expand your sense of the possibilities that are around us? Remind you of the miracles that surround us? Now, I suspect you've heard something of a similar message from me before. It's often said that a preacher most often preaches the messages that they need to hear. And I suspect that I need to wake up to the beauty of the world and the possibilities it contains a bit more. But what about you? It is so easy to get distracted with the daily rhythm of ordinary life and forget to see the sparkling gravel and the asphalt, or the mosaic of green that forms a tree, or... Before I close, let me extend to you an invitation. This is my first sermon this month on reimagining possibilities. Between now and next Sunday, I invite you to open yourself to the unexpected beauty of the world. And when you find something beautifully unanticipated, an exquisite movement, an inspiring sound, a wondrous object, send me a note or an email, or if you're watching online, post something in our comments. I'll draw on your inspiration when I preach again next week. Today, though, I close with words attributed to the Navajo tradition. Beauty is before me, and beauty is behind me. Above me and below me hovers the beautiful. I am surrounded by it. I am immersed in it. May you be as well. Blessed be, Ashe, and Amen.